Market Musings podcast with Fairbairn and Russell. Hello and welcome back to the Market Musings podcast here, where today from Altona Rare Earths, the Chief Operating Officer, Cedric Simonet, joins us. And where are you calling from today, Cedric? Welcome.
Thank you, and good morning from Monte, Muambe in Mozambique. I'm on site. Oh. It's a cold weather today.
Okay, so you're on site in cold weather. Okay, well, I'm on site in Rotterdam in a very warm weather, and Kenny's on site in Scotland. What's it like with you, Kenny?
Yeah, it's pretty bloody cold. It's always cold. Scotland, yeah, it's been pretty miserable, probably for the last 10 days. Although today there is a bit of blue sky, but certainly haven't seen much of that.
Well, I'm on 26 degrees here, so it's nice. It's lovely and warm where I am. But I'll send my warm vibes over to you, Kenny, and you, Cedric. But it's nice to have you back on, Cedric. Of course, this is the second time that we're talking on the podcast. And I don't think at the time you were COO, were you? So is that a recent-ish appointment?
I've been a COO for a little while, but before that I was working as a consultant for Altona, and I was also on the board.
Indeed.
As a non-exec.
Indeed. Okay. Well, now you have the full title, so it's good to be catching up with you. How are things in general with Altona?
Look, it's going well as far as operations and projects are concerned. Definitely, and the main thing with Altona right now is our listing on the LSE, which we are still pursuing, and for us this is the big goal to attain, and this is what we are focusing.
Excellent. Well, it's great that you're on site, Cedric. I actually thought you were in the UK, so it's even better that you're on site. So maybe be good just to give us a snapshot of what's going on at Monte Muambe just now on site.
Sure.
What activities are going on at the moment?
Right. So we restarted activities after phase one. We restarted activities on site in February. Just after the cyclone seasons. I don't know if you heard, we had a few cyclones passing over Mozambique. So as soon as this was over, we were able to restart activities. What we did to enable us to get our results faster, we procured a portable XRF, which is a model which is specialized in rare earths, which can analyze and give results for 5 rare earths. Which is excellent to enable us to analyze our samples in real time, whether it's soil samples or whether it's drilling samples. And that has allowed us to make a lot of progress since February. So we've done soil sampling over the whole carbonatite of Monte Muambe. And we've also restarted drilling. We've done 1,765 meters of drilling so far, to test the new anomalies we discovered with soil sampling, and also to understand better the geometry of the ore bodies prior to resource drilling.
We'll come on to a lot of that later on, Cedric, because I've got quite a few questions, because obviously I'm invested in Altona, and I believe Mark is as well, so we have a vested interest in your progress. So I think it'd be good, though, let's just take a step back and for new investors, or probably existing investors as well, Cedric, can you give a high-level overview of the Monte Muambe project? Where it's located, what kind of rare earth deposit it is, and I do know from my own personal research that there has been historical work done in the past. So maybe just give us a 5-minute snapshot of the project, and it gives investors something to get their teeth into.
Okay, sure. So Monte Muambe is located in Tete province. That's in northwest Mozambique. That's on the side of near the border with Malawi, Zambia, and Zimbabwe. And it's actually probably the part of Mozambique where there is most mining activity. There are several active coal mines. There is a large iron ore and steel project. There are lots of small gold mines. There is really a lot of mineral development activity. So infrastructure is excellent. There is access to electricity. It's very easy to find contractors for exploration, for drilling, for processing, for contract mining, and security is excellent. Monte Muambe is a primary carbonatite. I would really invite people who are listening to go to Google Earth, look for Monte Muambe in Mozambique, and just admire the view of this beautiful structure. It's a ring structure. You just have to see it for yourself. It's beautiful. So it's a primary carbonatite. It's geology-wise, it's quite similar to Songwe Hill in Malawi, which is being explored by Congo. Except that it's bigger and a little bit less complex. It's the ore bodies are a bit more straightforward. Historically, Monte Muambe had been considered as a fluorspar project. I'm talking from the 1950s, 60s. And up to 2011, there was a company doing a lot of exploration for fluorspar. They found fluorspar, they defined the resource, but these fluorspar results are not very exciting. And you can trust me because I've worked 3 years on a fluorspar mine, actually mining fluorspar, so I know this subject. Mm-hmm. However, much more interesting, in the course of fluorspar exploration, they discovered some rare earth occurrences. So when we took over this project, actually I was checking the date, it's almost exactly 1 year ago today, and we've achieved a lot of things in 1 year. When we took over this project, we decided to focus on the rare earths because that's what we were looking for. Yeah. So the first phase of work that we did last year, phase 1, was primarily to allow us to understand better the geology, where are the ore bodies, where are the rare earths in this structure. And we were quite successful. We were able to confirm 2 of the targets that had been previously discovered 10 years ago, and we were able to discover 2 new ones. So that's about the history of the project.
Yep. And obviously, these guys have done a fair amount of drilling between phase 1 and phase 2. I mean, how many meters were planned, Cedric, and how many have you actually completed so far for this phase 1 and phase 2 program?
Okay, so the aim of our phase 2 is to define our maiden resource estimate. That's the main aim. And the deliverables that we have for phase 2 are 1, the maiden resource estimate, JORC compliant, obviously. 2, a preliminary metallurgical study. As you surely know, metallurgy is very important with rare earths. It's not only how much you've got in the ground, it's also how you will be able or not to extract it from the ore. And 3 is a scoping study. So these are the 3 deliverables for this phase. We've planned 8,000 meters of drilling for phase 2. And so far we've done, as I said, 1,765.
So, I mean, the news flow is pretty much guaranteed, for the rest of the year, because obviously I know you guys have put out XRF initial results, but obviously there'll be assay results coming left, right and centre for the rest of the year.
Yeah, absolutely. We are actually preparing the first batch of samples to be sent to Intertech for actual laboratory results. The XRF results are only temporary, even if they are very useful. So the past few months, as I said, we've been focused on 2 things. 1 was a soil sampling, and 2 was very focused drilling, this 1,700 meter I talked about, to confirm the geometry of the ore zones. And we've been very successful. In terms of soil sampling, we've discovered new rare earth anomalies. We've been able to define the shape of target 1, which is one of the earlier known anomalies. And not only have we found rare earths, but we've also found niobium. And that's completely new because as much drilling as there had been previously on this project, it had never been in the areas where we found niobium. So we are still looking into niobium, but it's likely that this project is going to be not only rare earths, but also niobium, which is fairly common with carbonatites because these are 2 associated minerals in carbonatites.
What is the significance of the niobium, Cedric? Does it fundamentally change the project at all?
Now, it doesn't fundamentally change the projects, and Monte Muambe will remain a rare earth project. However, it will probably be a byproduct.
Okay.
Which means for the same volume of rock you extract, you get more revenue.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Which is positive, obviously.
Okay. Well, I guess you don't know much about the listing process then, but maybe you can allude to where the company is on the development path of this project. And I know I spoke to Altona just recently. I spoke to Christian back only last month about the Monte Muambe assay results. So, I mean, where in the development stage is the project at the moment? And can you maybe allude to some timelines or key milestones for developing this project over the rest of this year?
Yeah, absolutely. It's quite simple. This drilling we've done already during 2022, during the past few months. We needed to understand a little bit the geometry of the ore bodies, and we needed to confirm some of the anomalies found in the soil sampling. So we've done this. Now we've stopped drilling for a period of about 3 weeks, so that we can review the data and so that we can finalize the resource drilling plan. We are scheduled to restart resource drilling on July 11th. So it's a very precise date. The contractor is already aware of it, and actually he has left the equipment on site. So we are fully prepared to restart drilling, to do the resource drilling. While we are looking at our data, we have commissioned an exploration target estimate on Monte Muambe on 3 of the targets that we have. So exploration target is not like a mineral resource estimate. It's a lower level. It uses less data, less reliable data, and typically it comes with some assumptions and some ranges of tonnage and of grade. So why we did this? Because we wanted to be able to start showing officially to our investors what is the size or potential size of the project, of the ore body, while we are doing the resource drilling during the remaining part of this year. And we expect to publish, and we are on track to publish the first resource estimate during the first quarter of next year, 2023. Yeah. We have started to send samples for metallurgical testing and mineralogy. So our plan is to deliver the scoping study in the beginning of the second quarter of 2023. So that gives you the timeline. Okay. And we are fully on track.
Oh, it's good. It's good to get an idea of timeline there. So resource Q1 and hopefully scoping study Q2 next year. It's good to get an idea of what's going on. That sounds like there's definitely a plan there. Okay, excellent. Well, hopefully that does tie in with the listing, of course. And I'm sure we'll be catching up with Christian about that. But go on, Kenny.
Yeah, there's one thing that Cedric brought up there during that the last couple of minutes. What are drilling costs like in Africa, Cedric? I've never really had an opportunity to ask anyone. Compare it to, say, let's say Canada or Western Australia or something like that. I'm assuming it's a lot cheaper. Somewhere in Europe.
It depends. It depends how remote is your site, and it depends how many contractors are around. So here in Tet Province, there are half a dozen contractors, so the rates are not too bad. When we look at RC drilling, the all-in cost is usually below $70 per meter. So that includes drilling, but also mobilization, moving the rig between the holes, doing the casings and everything. That's an all-in cost. So it's quite all right.
Yeah. So 100 meter hole is $7,000 basically, which is pretty reasonable. Yeah, that's decent.
Yeah.
But, a couple other things as well that caught my eye. Obviously, I went over the last couple of RNSs about the project, Cedric, and one thing there's several things that caught my eye, but the first one I'd like to talk about is obviously you've done this massive soil sampling program, and you talk about target 1 and target 2. Actually, you appear to have identified, I think it's probably 8 or 9 so far within the footprint of the project.
Yes. Yes, correct.
Yeah, and the initial results as well. There's a sort of common theme that seems to be running through the ASSIs and the XRF results, is that all mineralisation appears to be from surface. In many cases, it's open at depth and open in many directions as well. I mean, it seems that it could be a really, really big rare earth deposit. It's one still in the making, potentially.
Yeah, these ore bodies, you have to imagine something a bit the shape of a brick, but it would be laid into the ground in a sort of standing position. So the contacts of the mineralized zones with the host rock are vertical. And these mineralized zones are very homogeneous, and they are big. If we look at target 1, we've shown already that the length is 700 meters, the width is 100 meters. So this is going straight into the ground. We've drilled it down to 80 meters below the surface. So target 1 is the biggest. Target 4, the situation is about the same. We've done a fence across the target. All the holes reported mineralization. 2 of the holes reported mineralization all the way from surface to 84 meters. So the width at that point of the ore body is 170 meters. And the length suggested by the soil results is 300 meters. So this is beautiful for open pit because it's very homogeneous. And furthermore, these targets are actually hills. So the top part of the target, there is almost no waste to remove when you go for mining. And I have experience in mining and in open pit mining myself, and I can really see these hills and picture how we are going to take this out in open pits. For the moment, what we've seen so far is beautiful. However, not all the targets are like this. The main ones are, but there are a few which are not. So that's why we are not talking about them, because we are not considering them for now. Like, for example, target 6, we drilled it, we confirmed it. It was one of the old discoveries from 10 years ago. However, it's covered by 30 to 50 meters of phenite. So this is already a different story. We are not looking at this for now. Maybe later, maybe we will make some other discoveries with lesser amounts of overburden, 10, 20 meters, that would be workable. But for now, we focus on all the targets which are nicely outcropping from surface all the way down.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at hole MM01. You talked about from surface, and that's 77.5 meters at 2% TREO from surface. I mean, that's quite chunky. I mean, how do these percentages line up, compared to your peers?
Yeah, if you look at our peers, you've got some projects which have some very, very large resource estimates. We are talking hundreds of millions of tons, and usually with low grades, below 2%. We are not very, very interesting in finding hundreds of millions of tons, because you never mine hundreds of millions of tons. And all these projects which are presented 200, 300 million tons, the reserves, the actual reserves that will be mineable and what will be actually mined when they go into production will be more towards 20, 30 million tons. So we are focusing a lot more on smaller volumes with higher grades, because ultimately the grade is important. That's what you're going to sell. That's going to be your revenue per ton. So the grades in the holes that we have for target 1 ranges from 2 to 3.5%. And I'm not talking individual intercepts. I'm talking full length intercepts, 40 meters, 60 meters, sometimes the entire hole. For target 4, we are talking 2 to 3%. For target 3, 1.5 to 3.3%. This is above average. This is above average for this sort of well-defined ore bodies. Yeah,
definitely. It's definitely a compelling story in the making. And I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. What size is the actual footprint of Monte Muambe? What is it, about 20 square kilometres? I mean, I might be miles out here. I'm just trying to do it from memory.
It's a bit less. It's about 15 square kilometer for the intrusion. So that includes carbonatite and phenite. Phenite is a reaction zone that we find around carbonatite, and it also hosts some rare earth mineralization. So yeah, 15 square kilometers.
And you guys have only really scratched the surface, for want of a better term. I mean, I don't think you've looked at the full footprint. I mean, there is potential for a lot more exploration to go on within the footprint.
Now with the soil sampling, we've covered the entire area. However, we focused, as you would do, we focused on the biggest, most interesting targets. There are some other targets which we have not even given numbers that we need to do detailed soil sampling on, and then we will do RAB drilling. So there is still some potential for more. But now we have a fairly good understanding of the geology of the area, which areas have got potential, which have got no potential.
Yeah, it makes sense. There's no point in wasting exploration dollars and building up 10 targets and you can't advance number one. What's the infrastructure like in camp? Well, obviously you guys have been there for a while, drilling and exploration, soil sampling, etc. I must imagine there's a fair camp building up on site.
Yeah, we have two camps actually, which are joined together. One for Monte Muambe Mining, which is the company, the subsidiary operating, and another one for drilling contractor. So by now it's a very nice camp. It's a tented camp. We've refurbished it completely, and the contractor is also using tents. It's quite a nice camp. When we are drilling, we have about 50 people on site.
It certainly sounds like there's an awful lot going on. Is it just Monte Muambe that the main focus is on, Cedric, at the moment? Because Altona have some other rare earth projects in the mix, don't they, as well?
Sorry. Right now, in terms of actual exploration, it's only Monte Muambe. However, Altona has got a multi-asset strategy. And as you know, there are different types of rare earth projects. Monte Muambe is a carbonatite, but you also have projects which are in ionic clay, which are completely different in terms of geology, in terms of dynamics. You have hydrothermal projects, which are smaller but higher grade. Then you have all these out-of-the-box projects like tailings, looking at tailings from old mines and recovering rare earths from tailings. So Altona's strategy is to look for different types of projects in different jurisdictions, and to look in particular for projects that can generate cash flow early. That's a very, very important part of our strategy. So we are currently assessing different projects in different countries. We've been in Burundi recently. We have set up a company in Tanzania, and we are putting up some applications for ground in Tanzania. Having a base in Mozambique, we are looking for other projects in Mozambique, including things that are conceptual in nature, meaning nobody has looked for it before. But now we've got a base, we've got analytical equipment, so we can do this. And there is another project in Mozambique on which we are doing a technical due diligence. And if this project happens to be what we hope it will be, then this would be a small-scale mine, a rare earth mine that would produce concentrates in a time frame of about 2 years. Small scale, but very fast.
Mm.
Yeah.
We'll see when we get the results of the DD.
Yeah, I mean, obviously a lot of these projects, because you're going through the IPO listing process, you can't announce anything to market until you secure that listing, because obviously you need to change your prospectus, etc. So, yeah, I get there could be a lot of projects sitting on the shelf, and as soon as that IPO is signed and sealed, we'll be able to see some new projects come online.
Yes, absolutely.
Yep. definitely.
That's about 30% of my time right now. 70% is Monte Muambe. The rest is business development. So we are very, very active in securing new projects.
Yep, yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to that. Just one thing to go back to Monte Muambe. The earning percentage, can you just remind me of where Altona, the Altona ownership is at just now, and what the sort of next milestone percentage is?
Yeah, so the agreement we have with the original owners of the license is an earning agreement. So we started with 1%. Having completed phase one, we are now at 20%, subject to some approvals by the government. And then at the end of phase two, we will get to 51%. And we can go with phase three up to 70%.
Yeah. So
the license, sorry, I thought you might want to know also about the status of the license. The license is was expiring in May. We've done all the process for renewal. If you look in the mining cadastre, you will see it's now in the process of renewal. It's actually on the desk of the minister for signing, but the minister has been in England for some meetings with British investors. So we expect that as soon as he is back, it's going to be signed and it's transferred to Monte Muambe Mining at the same time.
Excellent. So all the boxes are getting ticked in all fronts.
Yeah.
And obviously when you go to 51%, I mean, it sounds like you are the operators at the moment, but ultimately you want to be the owner operators with the majority control, you know, at the end of phase two. So that'd be a key milestone for the company as well.
Yeah, the agreement is set up in such a way that we already have control of the company. But obviously we want all our ducks to be in a row, everything to be in order. And yeah, we want to build up our ownership of this project. It's a very exciting project. I personally believe it will go into production. From my experience with production, I can just see it when I'm there in the bush and I look at these hills. I can already see myself digging them up.
Yeah. Do you think there's potential? I mean, this is quite a wide-ranging question, Cedric. I mean, obviously you've got like Macango, you've got Rainbow Rare Earths. Is there potential for Altona, you know, a few years down the line to be sitting alongside these guys?
Absolutely. If you look at Congo, if you look at the resource estimates, I personally think that our estimate is going to come up with slightly smaller in terms of tonnage, but as I have explained, it's not so important because what's important ultimately is the reserves. But in terms of grades, I think we are going to be higher than Congo. When you compare the market capitalization of Altona and Congo, and when you compare the projects, there is no reason why we wouldn't get to the same market cap as in Congo in just a couple of years.
Yeah. So you're telling me to keep a hold of my shares, Cedric? That would be put them in the bottom drawer and forget about them.
Well, I'm keeping hold of mine. You can be sure.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I wonder if we've talked a lot about the project, but I think it'd be quite nice maybe just to finish off, just talking about rare earths in general. I mean, obviously, you know, the world's went copper mad and lithium mad, you know, and the EV revolution, but people seem to forget that, yeah, you can maybe build all these EV batteries, but if you don't have rare earths for the motors, then you have no green cars. No, it's an essential component and it seems to get overlooked in the process. I mean, it will have its day in the sun. I mean, there will be a mad push to secure supplies of rare earths. It's probably already happening quietly, but I'm waiting for rare earths to have its lithium moment, and I think it's coming very soon.
Yeah, absolutely. People don't understand so much rare earths because, okay, when you buy a battery, it's written on it lithium ion or lithium polymer battery. So people know, okay, if I want my battery, I need some lithium. but you've got no product on which it's written rare earths. Especially rare earths is a big category of different chemical elements, and not all of them are so important. Some of them are, like neodymium and praseodymium. So these two elements, Nd and Pr, are used to make permanent magnets, very, very strong permanent magnets. When you want to make electricity from wind, for example, you need to have an alternator. This alternator uses magnets. These magnets use Nd and Pr. If you want to consume electricity, to transform this electricity into motion, you have to use a motor. This motor uses magnets. So the green revolution cannot happen without Nd and Pr, because you need Nd and Pr for the alternators for the windmills, and you need Nd and Pr to be able to consume the electricity in your car for the drivetrain and for the motor. The problem is that nobody hears about this, as in people hear about it in the news, but they don't see it. You see, if car manufacturers, for example, wrote somewhere on the car that this is a NdPr motor, people will start getting it. Okay, this is NdPr. This is what we need for the green revolution. This is what is going to be part of our lives now. So I think this is the main cause of the main reason why people know about lithium. People don't know about rare earths, and often mix up rare earths with lithium, confuse rare earths with lithium.
Yeah, I think copper and lithium at the moment's got sort of more a sex appeal, if you want to put it that way. You know, rare earths seem to be, you know, to be forgotten. But like I say, it's an essential component of this whole revolution. So it is, and not just the EV revolution, because I mean there's a lot of military applications as well. Obviously, this is why the Chinese and the Americans are, well, more so the Americans are panicking that they can't source, reliable and long-term supply chains of these materials. So, yeah, the Chinese have definitely got a stranglehold in the market at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
For us, it's a blue sky potential for a very, very long time.
Indeed, a very, very long time. Yes, probably at least the next decade, if not the next 2 or 3 decades in this space.
Yeah, and Africa seems to be the sort of last, not the last, but it seems to be one of the continents that seems to be, you know, it's got a lot of rare earth potential. So I think there's a lot of companies moving into the space now. You'll know more about this than anyone else, Cedric. You know, the activity in the area and speaking to fellow geologists, but you know, everybody seems to be moving in and wanting a piece of the action.
Well, you find rare earths in all parts of the world. They are fairly evenly distributed. However, to get workable rare earth deposits, in many cases, you need to have a climatic factor. Weathering will usually increase the grades of your carbonatites. Ionic clay deposit requires certain climatic conditions, and you don't find these climatic conditions in the northern hemisphere, in Europe or in North America. So in that area, they have to look for primary deposits. It's more difficult. Africa definitely has a better place, has a better opportunity to become the major source of rare earths for the world.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I'm just going to step forward as well, maybe 18 months or so, Cedric. So, I mean, we're doing resource drilling just now, maiden resource estimate, scope and study. I mean, you guys must have a long-term strategy. At what point do you take this project to, and do you approach a major at a certain point and hope that one approaches you, or do you want to take it into production? I mean, what is your sort of longer-term plan for this Monte Muambe project?
Yeah, I think we want to take it as far as possible, because even if we are going to divest at some point, or if we are going to seek joint ventures, we must have a very solid project in our hand to put on the table. So we are going to take it as far as possible after this scoping study, and of course subject to the results. We will do the feasibility study, and we will secure the mining license. One of the good things that I like with Mozambique is that they issue mining licenses, are called concessions, at a relatively early stage in the project. And this is very good because it de-risks projects early. You don't have to finish everything then to look for your mining license. You can actually secure everything, mining license, environmental license, land rights, before you finish. So that at that point, we will have a project in our hands which is fully licensed, which has got a definitive feasibility study, and then we will be able to see what is the best way to take it further and to valorize it.
Yeah, so it sounds
whether
like
we get into mining ourselves, or whether we get into a JV with a partner, or whether we divest.
all right, excellent. It sounds like you have sat down and worked out what the long-term strategy is, and obviously this won't be the only project in the stable. You've obviously mentioned 2 or 3 others that you've got in the pipeline, which will hopefully come to fruition when you get the IPO over the line. Mark, have you got in just to finish off with?
No, I think I'm good. It's brought us up to speed, hasn't it, on where the project is. I like the blue sky for a long time. I think that's a good comment. Just need to get the shares listed on the main London Stock Exchange and increase that liquidity in the share price. But in terms of a project value level, I think it's excellent. And there's not so many projects out there, and there's going to be a huge call for these kind of rare earth elements for the green shift that we're heading down. So thank you very much for bringing us up to speed on what's going on and laying out the timeline. There's lots to happen, lots to look forward to, it seems, with Altona throughout the next 12 months.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Period.
Yeah.
Yep. Perfect. All right. Well, thanks for your time, Cedric. Appreciate you taking time out of your busy day, because you're on site, obviously, in Mozambique. So, yeah, but it'd be great if we could get some pictures in social media. Everybody likes some pictures. So, yeah, hopefully we'll see some site footage or some site pictures popping up in your Twitter account. That'd be good
Sure.
to see. But anyway,
I'll send you some.
Excellent. Okay.
Great. Thank you very much, Cedric.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to another podcast from Market Musings with Fairbairn and Russell. Tune in next time.